Hi everyone, salam. Today, let's talk about what boundaries are and the different types of boundaries that we all have. I'm Maliha, a licensed mental health counselor who loves sharing information about mental health. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I post new videos every Monday, so make sure that you're subscribed and turn the bell button on so you get notified every time I post a new video. So humans are biological creatures. We're driven to be social and have relationships. And one of the fundamentals of a healthy relationship is having healthy boundaries. When we think about the word boundary, we think about something that's a barrier which puts limits between two things. Sometimes when people think about boundaries, they might think that boundaries pull people apart, but healthy boundaries actually bring people closer together. So we all have different types of personal boundaries. Let's go through all of them so that we're able to identify if our boundaries are being violated or if we're overstepping other people's boundaries. So one of the types of boundaries that we have are emotional boundaries. This helps us separate our emotions from someone else's so that we're able to take responsibility for our own emotions and not take on the responsibility for other people's emotions. An example of violating emotional boundaries is being rejecting, dismissive, or assuming of what other people might be thinking. We have to allow people to have different emotions than us. All of us are our own person, so we can have different emotions from someone else even if we love them a lot. Another area this comes up is emotional dumping. This is when we take all of our emotional stuff and then we unload it onto someone else without checking in with them or asking them how they're doing. Another violation of this area is when parents share inappropriate information with their children. So sometimes they might share very personal information, deep feelings, or inappropriate things about their partners. And this can lead to children either feeling very confused and not knowing what to do with this information or feeling negatively about the significant other. Another type of boundary is material boundaries. So this helps us to determine whether or not we're going to let someone else borrow our car, our clothes, borrow some money, whatever it may be that's a material possession. We might want to share our stuff with other people to be kind and to be giving and to be generous, but we have the right of saying no if we're not comfortable with sharing something. Let's say our sibling borrowed one of our clothes, maybe it was a shirt or some pants or something, and they return them either dirty or torn. So that will be an example of a boundary violation when it comes to material boundaries. So I'm gonna pause here and ask you for a favor. Make sure that you hit that like button. It helps my videos reach a wider audience so I can continue to do what I do and so that people can benefit from the information that I share. The next type of boundary that we have is our time or energy. So we all have a capacity that we can offer to other people. Some people are introverts and some people are extroverts. Extroverts get their energy from being around other people, while introverts love to spend time on their own so that they can feel rejuvenated. I would consider myself an introvert. I definitely can't spend all of my time with other people. I have to separate myself from a crowd at some point. So for me, a boundary in this area looks like being able to recognize when it's time for me to leave a gathering or be able to say no to special occasions that might be happening during the week. Sometimes we feel like we have to show up to every last event, and that might even be a requirement either in our family growing up or in our culture to be present no matter what. But it's okay for us to be able to say no sometimes when we don't have the capacity to give energy to other things or other people. Because sometimes, let's say that we say, okay, well, I'm gonna show up because I have to show up, but we end up feeling cranky or upset and we're irritable, and the entire event ends up going south because we didn't take time to ourselves. Or sometimes we're left with resentment towards, man, I really didn't want to be here, and look, I'm having to deal with all of the stuff that's coming up. It's okay to say no to gatherings or events if we feel like being there is going to do us more harm than good. Another example of a boundary violation over here is either being late or just not showing up. So let's say that we made plans with one of our friends and we cancel 30 minutes before, or we just don't show up entirely. That will be us violating the boundary of time or energy for our friend. Another area that this can be significant in is when we're always on call for other people. That's a sign of poor boundaries. We all have our own capacity that we can offer to other people. Sometimes we have to put limits with ourselves on what we can give to other people, and that's totally okay. Comment below and let me know if you've had the experience of someone overstepping your boundaries. Another type of boundary is mental boundaries. So these are our thoughts, our beliefs, our values. Sometimes we feel like people have to agree with us no matter what. They have to agree with the way that we think, the values that we grew up with, and if they don't, then they're not right. And we might even feel the need to keep going on and on to convince somebody. We can agree to disagree because in the end, everyone is their own person. We each come from different backgrounds, different upbringings, different experiences. So of course, naturally, we're all going to think differently, and that's totally okay. Sometimes we might be argumentative or defensive in conversations. We might have a hard time being open-minded because it's hard to think about things maybe in a different way. But being able to open ourselves up to other opinions can lead to a more harmonious relationship. And sometimes being able to just explore ideas with someone, even if it's not the same as what we think, can be better for the relationship in the long run. And this doesn't require us to sacrifice our own values. We can still stick with the values that are important to us, but it's not always necessary to put those values on someone else. So the last type of boundary that I'll mention is physical boundaries, and this includes our privacy, our personal space, our body. We may feel comfortable keeping a certain distance from someone else. Sometimes when you're in a gathering of people start getting closer and closer, and for some people that can be very uncomfortable. That means that their physical boundaries are at a different level than the other person. Getting unwanted sexual or physical comments can become very uncomfortable, and that's another violation of physical boundaries. So let's say someone makes a comment about our weight or maybe something about our appearance that makes us feel very uncomfortable or it makes us feel uneasy. It's okay to say that we're not okay with what just happened. It's okay to distance ourselves from that situation. We can do that by verbally saying that we're not okay with what was just said, or we can leave that space, and we don't have to be present if someone makes us uncomfortable that way. So if you notice any of these happening with you, it's okay to speak up about it. And if you notice that you're doing with someone else, and it gives us an opportunity to maybe make some changes in our behavior. While we can't change how other people act or behave, we can change the way that people interact with us by setting healthy boundaries with them. Setting boundaries doesn't always come naturally to people. Sometimes we need some help on coming up with words or being able to feel confident when we're setting them. So make sure to stay tuned for the video where I'll talk about this in the future. If you found this video to be helpful, make sure to share, like, and subscribe. You never know who can benefit from it. Turn on the bell notification to get updated every time I post a new video. Make sure you're following me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'll see you in the next one.